Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
For centuries, ancient cultures knew the secrets to longevity, vitality, and healing. Now, modern science is catching up. Ageless Blueprint is a podcast that will reveal the modern secrets of better health and a better life. Join Dr. Eldred Taylor here today and every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on W4HC Radio at W4HC.com. As together we discover the secrets to better health through science and spirituality. A better life with Ageless Blueprint starts now. Here's your host, Dr. Eldred Taylor.
Hello, hello, hello. I am Dr. Eldred Taylor, and I am your spiritual MD. Now, why do I call myself the spiritual MD? Well, about 400 years ago in 1600s, a doctor named Descartes said that the body and the spirit were totally separate, that science would handle the body and the church would handle the spirit. Well, I think that was a 400-year mistake, that being raised in a Christian home and then being a scientist as a doctor, I have discovered after 30 years of practice is that you have to put those two together, is that the spirit and the mind and the body, they all work as one. And when you separate that out, that's when you get disease. That's when you get sickness and disease. At least that's what I believe, okay? So we're going to try and combine those two here. And I call this an ageless blueprint because I think this blueprint has been around for ages. And I kind of understood that when I went to Egypt. And that's why I wear this ankh, because they've been talking about spirituality and how the spirit and mind and how the body, how they interact. They were doing that 10,000 years ago. So I've taken on the persona of the spiritual MD. And this is our podcast, The Ageless Blueprint. We have a school community where I can help teach you a lot of these things that I've been discovering. And I hope you can join that. But today, what we're going to do, our last podcast, we talked about the stress connection. And that's one of the books we wrote. You can see that behind me. We wrote a book called The Stress Connection. Well, what I'm focusing on now is how we can disconnect from stress. I've been talking about the stress connection. I've been kind of going through these 4 steps that we're going to talk about now. But I have discovered I can enhance those steps by adding one really important thing that I hadn't been emphasizing in the past, and that's meditation. And that's one of the key ways to disconnect yourself from stress. And so we're going to go through these 4 steps. Hopefully this can help you. These are some things you can do. I'm going to give you some tools you can use, some websites, some apps you can use. So we're really going to get into the part of this podcast where I'm actually giving you information that you can use to actually change and transform your life. Why am I doing this podcast? Because I have been doing some things lately that has really transformed me. I mean, has made me a new person. And at 64, almost 65 years old, I am excited about what I'm becoming. I'm not looking at what I'm going to have to give up. I'm looking at what I can add to my life. And they said, you want to always be expanding your knowledge, expanding your experiences. And I don't care how old you are, just keep expanding, stop contracting. And what stress does, it makes you contract. It makes you worried about everything. It makes you scared to do certain things. So we don't want to contract. We want to always be expanding our knowledge. And I'm going to tell you, that's how you stay young. That's how you stay ageless, is by always learning and always be willing to change. I'm telling you, if you get stuck in your ways, you're going to be, I hate to say it, an old fool. And my parents used to always say, it's okay to be a young fool, but it's not okay to be an old fool. Okay, so So that's what I want to try and convey to you. So, hey, Rebel, this is my great producer, Rebel. How are you doing today, Rebel?
I am doing well, thank you.
All right. I'm fine. I don't know. Hey, I'm old enough to look at this Frasier, and Frasier always had Roz in the background to talk to. So Rebel is my Roz, but I'm going to treat her better than Frasier used to treat Roz. Okay, so so Rebel is my Batman, or my Robin to Batman, or whatever. So she organizes all these things for me, and she is my interaction. But I also want to interact with you guys, and I want you to leave comments in our podcast. When you see our podcast, it's at Ageless Blueprint Podcast. All of our podcasts are there. Please leave comments. I will respond. And if you have questions during this time, Rebel will kind of be our interpreter. She'll kind of organize the questions and try and get those in before it's over with. So let's get to this stress disconnection. That's what we want to talk about today. So can you pull up those slides? All right. Breaking the stress cycle, 4 steps to reclaim your life. And it only, okay, so I always want to try and simplify things in a way where you can actually remember them. So, 4 steps, 5 steps, or whatever. So these are the 4 steps, okay? So let's go to the next slide. So see, this is a problem. We talked about this on my last podcast, is how prevalent this is. I told you we wrote this book, The Stress Connection, back in like 2002 or 2003. We wrote the first book, Are Your Hormones Making You Sick? That was published in 2000. And we probably started learning about this in the 1998, 1999, and we wrote the book in 2000. And then we found out that just correcting hormones weren't enough. And we started to understand the connection to stress. And primarily it was this study that showed that 75 to 90% of all visits to primary care physicians are for stress-related complaints or disorders. So from that, I was like, wow, if I'm an expert on stress, I'll be right 75 to 90% of the time with my patients. And that study was way back in like 2002, I think. And just think what that percentage is in 2025. It's probably 95 to 98%. So I think this is really important. That's why I talk about it all the time. And that's why I want to impress upon you that this is probably the major disease starter in everybody, is this stress. All right. So there's 4 major systems that are affected. And they also lead to like 5 common symptoms. But let's just go to the next slide. All right, so here's what keeps you stuck. There's some stressor. It can be a person, it can be a place, it can be a thing. But there's some stressor that gives you the impetus to have the stress response. And that stress response is fight or flight. Okay, so your body's always thinking that it has to run or it has to fight. And so that changes your whole physiology, where all of your energy goes towards your muscles, and it negates the part of your body that actually keeps you safe. So you think you're running towards safe or running away from safe, but really what your body is doing is preparing you to run or fight. So the other part of your nervous system is called rest and digest. Okay, so if you don't rest, you can't recuperate from that fight. See, usually animals, they run or they fight, then they rest and recuperate. Well, we don't do that, okay? We are stressed 24/7. So we are always in this fight or flight. So we don't have any energy going toward our digestion. If you don't digest, the only way you can get in, well, the best way to get energy is to get it from your food. So you have to eat food that has energy. That means non-processed food, energy that actually are food that actually has energy in it, and it hasn't been cooked out of it or hadn't been baked out of it. So you need to eat food that has energy, and your stomach or your GI system has to have enough energy to digest it. and it has to have enough blood going to it to pick up the nutrients to go to these certain areas. Okay. So it's so very important to get out of that fight or flight, but it's so hard because we have so many of these stressors. So after a while, if you don't have any nutrients, you haven't rested and recovered, you haven't been sleeping, or you haven't gotten good deep sleep, well, eventually you're going to have tissue damage because your tissue isn't getting the nutrients that it needs. And so now you have tissue damage, and tissue damage leads to disease. Also, your immune system, which is your long-term protection device, it is primarily in your gut. So when your gut doesn't work, your immune system doesn't work. And then there's something called a gut-brain connection, is that when your gut doesn't work, your brain also doesn't work. So now this stress response has done two things. It's taken energy away from the place where you need to gain it so you can face the next day of having stress. And also, when all of this oxygen and all of this blood goes to the muscles and you're not running or fighting, it produces lactic acid. And lactic acid is what happens when you go and work out, when you haven't worked out for a long time and your muscles are sore for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 days. Well, just think, if your body thinks it's been running or fighting or has been preparing for that and nothing happens, then what happens is it causes muscle pain and muscle aches. And we end up calling that fibromyalgia. And I talked about that last time. So now you see how this one stressor or this one trigger, when it's there long enough, it's almost like if you have a splinter in your hand long enough and you don't take care of it, it'll infect your whole body just from a little splinter in your finger. Okay, so that's how you got to look at this. All right, next slide. Rebel, am I making sense?
Absolutely. We have a question. How do you know if the body is absorbing nutrients?
Well, there's tests for that. I'll tell you one thing. I can look at your cortisol curve from saliva testing. And if your cortisol curve is normal, it's telling me that, hey, your stress response is okay. All right. You can look at something called heart rate variability. It can tell me if you're sympathetic and parasympathetic or imbalanced. There's also tests called organic acid testing. We do that in the office too. And what that does is it looks at the systems that need like B6. All right. So if you have enough B6, then you'll produce this certain substance. It's called pyruvate or whatever. Okay. So, but anyway, it looks at how much of this do you have. And if you don't have enough, it means that you don't have enough B6 or you don't have enough B complex or B1, B2 or whatever. So it's called organic acid testing. And that's way, and as you'll find out from the way I think, we always like to measure things. As a scientist and a physicist or whatever, we want to be able to measure. We want to be able to measure things in science, and we want to be able to reproduce the results. All right. So I always like to measure. We're going to measure meditation. We're going to measure cortisol. We measure how your gut works. You can also do GI testing, and I can tell you how well you're absorbing nutrients. So there's all kinds of tests you can do. Now, this is the difference between functional medicine, which I practice, and we call disease state medicine. In functional medicine, I want to see how the vitamins are functioning in your body or how your gut is functioning in your body. I'm not trying to find a disease. A disease means that you have total dysfunction. In functional medicine, we want to see, is the environment set up for the system to work correctly? Are the right bacteria in the gut so that the gut can function like it's supposed to? So you don't have to have a full-blown disease. You think about having, some kind of GI polyps or GI bleeding. Those are diseases. But you can also have dysfunctions, and it causes dysfunction. So you have a dysfunction in your gut, it's going to cause a dysfunction in your brain. It's going to cause a dysfunction in your hormones. It's going to cause a dysfunction in all these other areas. Okay. It's just like, again, you have a splinter in your hand and you don't take care of it, it'll end up infecting your whole body. All right. So what are the stressors? Okay. You can get You can have toxic relationships. I need to make these colors a little bit better. I'll do that next time. You can have toxic relationships. I did a whole video on, are your relationships making you sick? Because you can go into a room and you can feel the energy in that room. And if that energy is negative, it will end up causing you to have negative energy. You'll get depressed. You'll get anxious in that room because the energy of that room. So if you have a home that has negative energy, it can make you sick. If that home stresses you out, okay, and this is what happens in childhood a lot. You're in a home with the alcoholic, or you're in a single family home, and the parent, your mother is working, 2 jobs, so she's not there anyway. So these can be stressful relationships. And remember, I told you the first 7 years of your life, you are really hypnotized. So whatever you saw in your home that first 7 years, it can affect you. So that relationship, early childhood relationship, your high school, somebody dumped you, and didn't show up for the prom, it can cause a permanent effect on you. So you want to make sure you don't have toxic relationships. You can overwork. I always tell people, don't let a job kill you. Okay. You can't keep going to a job and an environment that's stressful. It is a trigger. You're going to be in fight or flight, and then you're going to have tissue damage. Then you're going to have disease. And then what happens is you're in a stressful work situation and you bring that stress home, and then you stress out your spouse and your kids. And so you're bringing negative energy into your personal space. You have poor boundaries. Okay. You don't know how to say no. So you get overwhelmed with obligations, and you have a poor. Okay, go ahead.
Would you consider stress to be contagious?
Oh, of course. Yeah, that's what we're talking about with energy. You can tell when a person is stressed out. Okay, you can tell when a person is happy. You can tell when a person is anxious. Most of the language most of the interaction we get from another person is through body language. Okay, it's not what they say, it's what you see. It's like they said, we would rather see a sermon than hear a sermon. I'd rather see what you do than hear what you have to say. So yes, it's definitely contagious. This is what I'm saying. You go into a stressful home. If you go into somebody's home, you can feel that there's discord in that home. You can feel that something's not right here. And you need to, and I'm going to tell you, the more you quiet your mind and you get in touch with your intuition, the more you're going to be able to feel where you should be and where you should not be. And that is a great skill, is to say, this is not right for me, or this is right for me. And that's all a part of what we're going to talk about. Once you can quiet your mind, you can start letting your intuition start to guide you, and you not guided by your circumstances. That's how you overcome your circumstances. It's not to be guided by where you are, but what your intuition is telling you you should go. So I hope I answered that question. Yes, if you're in a stressful place, you need to figure out how you can remove yourself from that place. All right. Or there are some other options I'm going to talk about. And so those are stressors that you know about. But what I am trying to help you with is we can test and discover the stressors that you don't know about. That splinter in your hand, you can see that one. But the things that are inside, like, are there splinters in your gut? And what I'm saying about that is that your gut is a filter. You can look at it like a coffee filter. If you get holes in that coffee filter, then you're going to get coffee grains in your coffee, and you don't want coffee grains in your coffee. So that's what happens with the gut. When the gut is damaged or inflamed, the gut is only supposed to let nutrients in and keep toxins out. But when you damage the gut, either through antibiotics or through different chemicals that you might be ingesting, or processed foods and all of the chemicals that are in that, it can cause little splinters or holes in your gut. And that's how you get food allergies, because your body doesn't want to see a piece of chicken. It wants to see the amino acids and the fatty acids that are a part of that chicken. That's what your body can use. If it sees a piece of chicken, it sees that as a foreign body, and it will make antibodies to chicken. And now you have this low level of inflammation in your body. That's how you get food sensitivity. So every time you eat chicken, and these are what we call delayed sensitivities. It's not like when someone eats shellfish and their face blows up and they can't breathe. Anybody can know that they're allergic to shellfish if that happens, or peanuts if that happens. But you can be allergic to chicken, and you have this low level of inflammation, and that's what causes the brain fog. You know how you can't think when you have the flu or you have a cold? Just if you dial that down a few levels, then that's that low level chronic inflammation that food sensitivities can give you. So it can make you feel like you're about to get sick, but you never get there. So what happens is you get foggy thinking, you get these muscle aches, you get fatigue, and that is all caused by food sensitivities that you don't even know about. Okay. And then we talked about the toxins that we inhale just by going outside. I live in a big city, Atlanta, and so I'm always breathing in toxins. You're always taking in toxins through the food that you eat. Hormone imbalances. That was our first book. Are your hormones making you sick? If your hormones are out of balance, it's a stressor. Okay, your thyroid is, thyroid hormones out of balance. We all, know when that's out of balance, we start to feel tired. When estrogen and progesterone are out of balance, or testosterone is out of balance, eventually it's going to cause cortisol to be out of balance, or vice versa. If you have cortisol out of balance, it's going to eventually lead to your hormones being out of balance. So it's a domino effect. And then we talked about food sensitivities. So you got to identify the stress, and in Ageless Blueprint in our school group, we're going to be able to deliver tests and have consultations so that you can actually identify those hidden stressors, because those are the problems, those ones that you don't know about, that you don't have immediate control over, that somehow, some way you need to identify those. So that is the important part. Try and do the things that you can do, and then we will also try and help you to do the things that you don't know about. So if you can get rid of the stress, then that's the great thing to do. Now, if you can't get rid of the stress, because sometimes the stressors are your parents, they're sick, you have to take care of them, they're having dementia, you have a sick child that has some chronic illness that needs to be taken care of, or you have a job that you just cannot get rid of, or just any situation, then you want to change how you respond to the stress. And that is what I neglected for the first 25 years of my practice, is how do you change your response to stress? So let's go to the next slide. All right. So what you have to do is to try and have to activate your rest and repair. So you have to try and get out of that fight or flight. And I won't say the only way, but the best way to do it is to try and quiet those thoughts. I'm the spiritual MD. So, the Bible says, be still and know that I am God. Okay. And we also talk about how he or she, however you want to think about the spirit or whatever, we're not getting into religion, we're talking about spirituality, is that not only do you need to be quiet, but it's also said that the universe or spirit or God speaks in a still small voice. So how are you going to know what your purpose is and know what your life is about if you can't be still and be quiet and try and listen to this inner voice or however you think the higher self speaks to you? Is that you have to be still, you have to be quiet. And that's, I think, what most people fear is being alone with themselves. Okay. And I know that personally. I used to always have to have something on. I used to have the radio on in the car. I used to have the TV on or be on the computer. But when you can be comfortable with being by yourself with your thoughts, that is when you really, that's when you really can disconnect from stress, is when you can be alone and be quiet and be satisfied. All right. So that's how you activate rest and repair. And you have to shift your nervous system out of that fight or flight into your rest and digest. Now, there's something called heart rate variability, and you can get this on a lot of apps in the App Store or Google Play or whatever. And we also do that in our office. It's heart rate variability. And what that means is that if you've ever had a baby or you're a husband and you were in the labor or delivery, and again, I was originally an OBGYN, we used to look at the baby's fetal heart rate to see if the baby was okay. All right. And if you've ever been in labor delivery, the more that fetal heart rate varies, the better that baby is doing. So this is how heart rate variability works. I'm going to try and explain it as best I can. So your body is always trying to create this delicate balance. Okay. And so whenever something's out of balance, the sympathetic nervous system is supposed to identify it, correct it, and then the parasympathetic says, so we got that back in order, or anything else out of balance. So it's constantly making these minute changes. You got to think how intricate your body is. It's got to make these minute changes, and then it should recover. So the sympathetic nervous system is the elevation, and then when it goes down, so it should vary a lot, okay, where it's making these minute little changes. When your heart rate variability is flat and you're not able to respond to those small changes, that's when disease happens. A flat heart rate variability actually increases your risk of death by like 5 or 6 years. I can give you the exact statistics. So you have to be able to activate that parasympathetic or that rest and digest system. And it needs to be doing it on a constant basis. Okay. So you have to be able to disconnect from whatever is around you, causing that stress, so your heart rate variability can do what it's supposed to do. Does that make sense, Rebel?
I think it does, but yeah. It's not easy to think about it when you're in that stressful state.
I know. Yeah. And so that's where I'm going to get to next. So how do you actually do it? And I'll tell you, I'm telling you everything from experience. Okay. So this is not something that I read about. It's not something that somebody told me. It is something that somebody told me, but I actually did it and I know that it works. Okay. So building daily rituals. I'm going to talk about that when we want to prepare for future stress, but you need to have a daily ritual. My daily ritual is I get up, I do my affirmations, because when the first 30 minutes when you wake up and the first 30 minutes before you go to sleep is when your subconscious mind is open and you can reprogram it. And again, I'm going to make videos and talk about this, but you want to reprogram your mind to get you out of this fight or flight, to reassure yourself that you are safe, that you can be calm, that you can overcome whatever you're doing. So it's affirming the power that you have over your own life. So that's that. All right. So you do your affirmations and then you meditate. That's what we're going to talk about, so that you can try and get that into your subconscious mind, because 95% of what you do it subconsciously. When you wake up and go to the coffee and get your egg and cheese biscuit, or go to Starbucks and stand in that line, or drive in that line, you're doing it subconsciously. Okay. You have this pattern. And as long as you do the same thing every day, you're going to get the same result every day. So the only way you can change what your result is going to be is you have to change your process. You have to change your routine. So you need to build routines that actually help you do this. And then I'll tell you what has really changed me is using this Muse headband. Okay. That's what we're going to talk about next. How are we on time? Oh, yeah. Hey, let's do a commercial. It's because I only got 20 minutes left. I really want to talk about how you can actually do this. Okay. And again, I'm not telling you something I heard about. I'm telling you something that changed. It really changed my life, is learning how to meditate. All right. So let's go to commercial and we'll be right back.
We are going to a quick break, so stay with us as we explore the Ageless Blueprint right here on W4HC Radio and Talk 4 TV. an ancient secret with a modern twist for better health and vitality. Dr. Taylor will be right back. Taking care of your health shouldn't mean taking a handful of pills every day. At Taylor MD Formulations, they create doctor-developed supplements that combine the best natural ingredients so you get the results you need with fewer pills. Taylor MD Formulations is backed by science, designed for real life with real results. Less pills, better health, doctor approved. Shop now at TaylorMDFormulations.com and discover smarter supplements for smarter health. That's TaylorMDFormulations.com. We are back for more of Ageless Blueprint. Once again, let's join Dr. Taylor for more insights and research on the ancient secret to better health and a better life in modern times. Here's your host, Dr. Eldred Taylor.
All right, we are back, and I'm excited to tell you some information that you can actually use today to disconnect from that stress response, disconnect from that fight or flight, and learn how to go into that parasympathetic rest and digest. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. All right, so this is the Muse headband. You put it on your head like this, and you have a app on your phone, and you have your earbuds in. And so what it does, it gives you biofeedback. So first I had to use guided meditation to kind of tell me to focus on my breath. And if you are focusing on your breath, your in breath and your out breath, it takes you away from your analytical mind, okay? And so your analytical mind is always trying to talk you out of what your intuition is telling you, okay? It's always looking at the external and trying to protect you from the external environment. And it's making you neglect your internal environment, all right? And your brain waves tells us what your internal environment is, all right? So when you are stressed, you're in what we call this high beta state. And in high beta, your brain waves are just all over. They're incoherent. They're just, they're cluttered, okay? So you can't really focus. You have this brain fog. And that's really what ADD is all about, okay? You're in this high beta state. Now, there's a lower beta state when you're really trying to concentrate and be analytical, okay? So you're really trying to have that analytical mind frame. Then there's alpha. Alpha is deep concentration. It's when those cluttered or those disordered brain waves start to get more coherent, okay? They start to come together so that you can focus. So you want to be in alpha, all right? When you're awake, you want to be in alpha. Now, when you're in deep, deep meditation, that's the theta waves. That's those hypnotic waves, all right? That's when you can really get into your subconscious and you can change it, okay? And then delta is sleep, okay? That's that deep sleep. So you have delta, you have theta, you have alpha, beta, then you have high beta. So you want to stay anywhere between theta, delta, and beta, okay? You don't want to go into high beta, and you want to be able to control how you can get into those states. So anyway, so you wear the headband, and you can do it for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Now, when I first started, I couldn't meditate for 2 minutes, okay? But I did this program called Declutter Your Mind. But first, let me show you this. All right, so every person my age or younger, every person is worried about their cognition. So that first, I hope you can see it, that first one that's on the left, that is me practicing meditation every day. And you can see how every day, if you look at those dots when it says great, I'm increasing my ability to go into alpha waves. And in that next one, when I'm optimal, that means I went into theta. Now, this is looking at cognition, and meditation helps you to maintain your cognition. It keeps your mind fresh. It keeps it where your mind can recuperate and recover so that we don't get dementia or Alzheimer's. So meditation is so, so important. My mother had dementia for the first 5 years of her life. I'm sorry, not the first, the last 5 years of her life. I'm sorry. Okay. And I saw what that can do to a person. And so if there's anything I can do to train my brain so that that doesn't happen, then I'm going to do it. And so that's why I use this Muse headband. And you can actually go to choosemuse.com. I'm actually going to show you that. choosemuse.com/ageless, and you get a 20% discount off of these headbands. But I highly, highly recommend, because one of the reasons why I didn't meditate, because I didn't know if I was doing it right. Is it actually doing anything? So this lets me know it's doing something. And whenever you can attach meaning to something that you're doing, and you know that it is accomplishing a certain goal, you're going to be more likely to do it. And that's why I think this is so important. And let's go to the next slide. All right. So this is brainwave patterns. So I want you to look at these little blue birds down there, okay, down here in the mind. And so it's telling me that my mind was calm 84% of the time, and I was still 91% of the time. All right. And that is a major accomplishment for me, is that I could quiet my mind for 20 minutes. Okay. And that didn't come easy. Okay. And let me show you how I got to that point. Let's go to the next slide. It's an app called Declutter Your Mind. Okay. And what I would do is I use the Muse headband, and I would do those meditations. They have a 30-day mindfulness meditation course. And again, the first time I did it, I couldn't meditate for a minute. I mean, not 2 minutes. And so how do you get better at something? You practice, okay? You want to get better at the guitar, you got to practice every day. You want to get better at the piano, or what? You want to get better at baseball, basketball, whatever skill you want, you have to practice it. So you have to practice meditation. And the more you practice it, the more you fall in love with it. I'm going to tell you, you don't know how good it feels to have a quiet mind, because your mind's never been quiet except when you're asleep. And even when you're asleep, your mind's probably not quiet. But when you can quiet your mind at will, if you saw on that those little birdies that I told you about, the minute the meditation started, within the first minute, I could quiet my mind. Now, they used to take 2 or 3 minutes, because I'm thinking about, did I drink enough coffee, or when do I have to get ready to go to the office? When I'm in meditation, I don't think about any of that. And I know it because my brain waves are telling me that I'm not thinking about any of that. That's when your body can rest and repair. And when you can go into that state at will, eventually, and somebody told me you should always live in a meditative state. And I'm like, does that mean I'm supposed to be saying and have my eyes closed all the time? No. You can learn how to quiet your mind in any situation. I quiet my mind before I get on this podcast so I can think clearly. Because if I'm nervous and fight or flight, I'm not going to be able to talk and have a conversation with my viewers and listeners if I'm uptight. Okay. I need to be able to think clearly and let some of the things that I know and the things that I think are appropriate to tell you, I need to have that to flow. And you need to have a clear mind in order to do that. So the Muse headband and the Declutter Your Mind app, I highly, highly recommend if you're interested in changing your life. If you don't like being in fight or flight and what fight or flight does to you, okay, then you need to change. And this is the way you change your subconscious. 95% of the things you do it, and you do it unaware. And we're going to talk more about this as I talk about how to transform your life. You need to be aware of what is affecting you, okay? Because a lot of times you're just unaware. You're just going through life like you've always done it because it seems comfortable to you. And when you try to do something else, it seems uncomfortable. Well, it's not uncomfortable, it's just unfamiliar. And we get so stuck on the familiar, we don't allow anything new to happen in our lives. And the reason why we are here is to experience life, is to live life more abundantly. That means to have abundant experiences. That doesn't mean to do the same thing every day. That's what I'm saying. Who wants to have longevity if life is boring? You want excitement in your life. And the only way you can do that is be willing to change and be willing to allow new things to happen. And if you're stuck in the same routine, there's no time for anything new to happen. All right. So let's go to the next slide. All right. So you want to repair the damage caused by the stress. That's what we do in Ageless Blueprint. We talk about rebalancing your hormones. We talk about supporting your adrenal recovery, talk about healing the gut. We talk about healing your mind, healing the spirit, getting that connection back to spirit, mind, and body. Okay, so you got to repair all the damage. You've separated yourself because you've gotten so into yourself and self. You're just worried about your next cup of coffee or whatever. So you're so confined to this body. You don't think about what your mind can do and how your mind can take you to new places and new opportunities and new situations. And you have disconnected from the spirit that guides you. We used to sing a song, lead me, guide me. Okay. But if you are not quiet, you can't be guided by your spirit and your purpose. Okay. So I hope I'm not getting too esoteric, but I have discovered this is important. Look, I spent 25 years focusing on the body, and that's great. But I guess now later in life, I'm interested in things that are beyond what we see in this world. And I guess that's just a part of evolution and aging and understanding. I have more years behind me than in front of me. And I really want to understand and make sure that I have done what I'm supposed to do in this life. Okay. So I hope I'm not getting too deep or, for other people, but I'm going to tell you, if you haven't gotten to this point, you will get to this point. So you have to repair the damage caused by the stress, because you have to do this next thing. You have to prepare for future stress. Okay. So yeah, I've had a lot of stressors. If you can go to the next slide, I think the next slide is saying you have to prepare for the stress that's going to come. All right. I'm going to have more stressors. I know that. Hey, I'm stressed. I'm not stressed. I enjoy. I'm enjoying creating our school community and the school course, because I think it's going to help transform people. All right. But there's stressors. So I have to prepare for that. So every morning I meditate and I'm learning something. So I have to, I go through a morning routine. Okay. My morning routine. I get up, I say my affirmations. I put my Ageless Blueprint tip of the day in my school community. So then I want to learn something So after that, I want to meditate. Then after that, I want to learn something. And then after that, I get ready for the day. And let me see how much time I have. Yeah. I get ready for the day by listening to our 1 Corinthians 13th chapter, because it talks about the characteristics of love. I listen to Johnny Nash sing, I can see clearly now that the rain is gone, because I can see more clearly now that I've gotten out of my stress or my fight or flight. Then I hear Lovely Day by Bill Withers. Okay. So Lovely Day just brightens, just says, this day is going to be lovely. I have in my mind that this is going to be a lovely day. Then I listen to B.B. King sing The Thrill Is Gone, but he has this group of musicians and they're in perfect balance and harmony. And that just tells me how important, how beautiful balance and harmony is. Then I listen to James Brown and Pavarotti sing It's a Man's World, not because I'm trying to be chauvinistic, because they sing it with so much passion. So balance and harmony. and peace because I know it's going to be a lovely day. And then the passion that they sing with. Hey, I'm ready for the day. That's my morning routine. Okay. And then you can track your progress with the Muse Band. Is that the more that I do that routine and my body subconsciously just gets me ready for a stress-free day. All right. So that's how you prepare yourself for stress. So let's review. One, you want to get rid of the stress. Okay. You want to get rid of the stress. We'll go to that one. But you want to get rid of the stress. Two, you want to, if you can't get rid of the stress, you want to change how you respond to the stress. And I really believe meditation is a way to do that. Third thing, you want to repair the damage caused by the stress. We can help you identify that in our ACEs Blueprint school community. And you want to repair the damage caused by the stress. Then the fourth one, you want to prepare for future stress. All right, so, and then the next slide, it's just, as always, you got to reconnect all three of these, all right? If you can get your spirit right, it's going to get your mind right. My mother used to say, boy, you better get your mind right, okay? So you have to connect to the spirit to get your mind right, and then your mind right will get your body right, okay? I was going from the bottom up, and even I wasn't even paying attention to the up. I was just taught that you look at the body. But, you know, my dad always was talking about the spirit. So I had to put the mind and the spirit and the body together, get that in the mind. And that's that gateway to those two. Okay. The spirit and the body that they're connected by the mind. So I have those two ends of the spectrum. And so I think I come from a unique viewpoint, and I hope my viewpoint, I'm conveying it to you so it helps you. But please go to the school community. You can go to my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is Ageless Blueprint 1. I would love for you to subscribe to that YouTube channel. That'll help me to continue to do these things, help me to get sponsorships, all these kind of things. So I would love for you to subscribe so I can make this even better. So every time you see, I got new backdrops, I got new lights, I got new cameras. So I really want to do this in the best way possible so it can help as many people as possible. And like always, we always say that the greatest of these is faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. So everything I'm doing on this podcast or in YouTube or whatever, it comes from a source of love. And I hope you see and feel that when you come into contact with me, Dr. Taylor, the Spiritual MD. All right, Rebel, we have any questions? Or I feel like I've been talking too much.
No, you can never talk too much.
Yeah, I guess
we do have
talk.
a few questions about the Muse thing.
Yeah.
They want to know, what exactly does it read? Like what kind of things does it tell you?
So here, I think yeah. So, okay. So the major thing is that cognition level, is how you can raise your cognition by practicing meditation. So that's really what I'm looking at, because I want to make sure my cognition maintains its highest level for as long as humanly possible, because I want to keep sharing this information for as long as possible. So to me, that's the most important part. And I'm going to tell you, when you start to see how you can improve and how you can quiet your mind, I told you, you don't know how good it feels to quiet your mind because your mind's never been quiet. It says you have to train your mind like a dog. You have to tell your thoughts to stay. Okay, stay away. I don't want to think those thoughts anymore. So allowing yourself to be relaxed enough to receive new information that you can actually use. So the cognition part, and for you to just practice to see how long you can quiet your mind and what you have to do to get into that state, because now I know what I need to do. Is about me focusing on my breath and these other little things that you can do to make sure you can get into that state on demand. Okay. So you just have to practice it. Go through the Declutter Your Mind, go to the Muse app, and we'll have those links in our podcast, Ageless Blueprint podcast, the website, in the Ageless Blueprint 1 YouTube YouTube channel. And again, please subscribe to those. Anything else? I know we're right at the breaking point here.
Yeah, we are right at time. Ladies and gentlemen, if we have not got to your questions, please go back and review the show. You can watch it on many platforms. Remember to leave comments and like on all platforms that you listen to. And make sure to tune in again every week to learn more.
Yep. We'll be back next week. I can't wait to see you.
Thanks for joining Dr. Taylor today. If you missed any part of this show, just check out the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Ageless Blueprint is every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on W4HC Radio at W4HC.com. Together, we discover the ancient secrets to better health through science and spirituality made for modern times. Until then, feel free to check out agelessblueprintpodcast.com and TaylorMDFormulations.com for more information.